What up, Quick Talk world? How the heck are you guys? So I made this video on Facebook the other day, and I had never made anything like this before, but it's a topic I'd wanted to talk about. I'm going to play you the audio from it. This just happened this week, and I got a flood of Facebook messages and all kinds of comments and stuff. And I'm curious your guys' take on it. And the topic is race. And the last thing I feel like we need is to have like some dramatic race conversation with all the nut wackos on both sides doing crazy stuff. Most of you guys know I'm a conservative Christian, right? I don't talk about politics or anything on this show, but there's something that's been bothering me. And I share a couple stories about my company in Michigan. It was a predominantly white town, a wealthier town, just south of Flint, Michigan. And I hired my first black technician, and we had all kinds of weird stuff happen and some other things that happened to me in high school that have always really bothered me. And I have a lot of black friends that have home service companies, and I was talking to some of them like what is that like? Because you get everybody's responsible for their own life. I 100% believe that, but I also know from personal experience how there's challenges, and I think even specific ones because of home service companies that can be weird, right? Like this one guy I know that I talked to on Facebook, he's a black guy. His family works with him. He's got a good business, but all of his website, all the images are like of white families. And it's just a weird dynamic. And it depends on where you are in the country. And of course, you can be discriminated against no matter what, right? Like I was called all kinds of horrible racial slurs when I repossessed cars. And it's a crazy world we live in. We need Jesus. We need love. But what I'm going to do on the podcast is I want to have some like really interesting, fun, candid conversations about this kind of from both perspectives because I've never heard it talked about. And I thought it'd be a good conversation. And, I want to have that conversation, right? So I'm going to invite some multi-million-dollar business owners that are of minority races. I'm going to invite some startup ones, and we're just going to talk about stuff. But I'm curious to get your honest opinion and feedback on the audio I'm going to play you from this Facebook video I did. And let me know. Give me a call and let me know your thoughts. I have a voicemail line set up for the podcast. It's 810-201-4555. I look forward to hearing from you guys. Take care. God bless. I hope my internet signal holds because I'm about to go to bed. It's really late. It's kind of late to do a Facebook Live, but I'm too inspired right now not to do this. And I've been thinking about this for many, many weeks. I want to tell you a story. I went to a mostly white high school in Fenton called Lake Fenton High School. Okay. And the first black kid that came to our school, I think I was in 10th grade, I think. And in 10th grade, the first black kid in our all white and mostly rich people school came to our school. Her name was Bobby. And Bobby came to our school, and she was kind of cute. I kind of liked her, actually. And this is a true story, okay? I've never shared this. And I actually have two stories I want to share tonight. Bobby came to our school, and I think she liked me, and I liked her. But what happened kind of rocked my world. It was my first exposure to, like, the concept of racism, because honestly, I was too dumb and naive. It just never had crossed my path. It just never did. And we didn't talk about it at home or anything, really. And what happened was people started hanging up posters on Bobby's locker of black people being lynched. I didn't even know what lynched was, but I could see a black person hanging from a rope on a tree on her locker. And it like horrified me. It shocked me. And in my naivety, it made me pissed off. And I got really, really angry. And when I was younger, I was a fighter. I like to fight. I like it. I like to fight, right? So I was like on a rampage. I wanted to find out who did this. I was like looking for an excuse to fight, but I was also genuinely outraged. And long story short, Bobby left our school because it was not a safe environment for her. It was hostile. It was crazy. And it blew my mind. So here's what happened to me. I went way over to this side of not the argument, but like of the, I don't know. I was way over here, and I'm like a champion in my mind as a naive white kid from a white school. a champion. Like I overcompensated in every scenario of my life of like being really sensitive to like black issues as I perceived it, not knowing anything. And I became like really obsessed with this. And I got in some fights with my parents because my dad had told me a story when he worked at General Motors when he was younger, how he had worked with this black guy and this really bad thing happened. And this guy really screwed him over and like was like borderline violent and was like really threatening. Had like this like army of other guys that were black, like mad at my dad. And like he was telling me this perspective and I was confused. And so, but I would like fight him and be like, no, like blah, blah, blah. And this is like in the 90s, right? And I've never talked about this, so this is weird. But I have a point to it, so stick with me. Then, when I was 20 years old, I started repossessing cars. It was a really cool job for someone who grew up traveling the state and our nation, kickboxing, and I liked to fight, and I was aggressive, and I played football, and I liked to hit people, right? And that's why I'm an entrepreneur, right? We're all kind of a little bit crazy. And so I'm repoing cars. It's an adrenaline rush, but it always happened in the middle of the night. And a lot of the cars we repossessed were in Flint, Michigan, because, you know, my business and where I live is a little bit south of Flint in a town called Fenton. And so I go to repossess these cars. Now, these are people who bought cars and could not pay. Not that they couldn't pay. I mean, they couldn't, but they didn't. They didn't pay. Like, it's logic. It's like 2 + 2 = 4. You didn't pay your car payment, so now we're taking it because that's how it works and stuff, right? And so I would do this. But we were going to like a lot of black communities and in the inner city and stuff, like a lot of poverty, devastation. It's horrible, right? We'd be rolling through in our repo truck at like 3 a.m. and there'd be like hundreds of people outside, you know, hookers over there and people drinking and like we're the only white people for miles. And it was weird, right? I'm like, okay, because I'm like from the suburbs, right? I'm like this little spoiled white kid that we didn't have much, but the town we grew up in had a lot. And so we get out to repo this guy's car, and this army of people from Flint that are a lot bigger than me and could probably pummel me into the concrete, right? They start calling me cracker and honky and you mother effing whatever, right? They're like super hyper aggressive, and it was really scary. It was like, oh my God, like this is serious stuff, right? And then what happened was, because I kept repoing for a long time, like on the side to make some extra money as a young kid, I started to flip-flop from over here, from my original story with Bobby, the black girl that came to our high school, and I had a crush on her, and people were horrible to her and dehumanized her, and it made me angry, and I became a champion in my own mind for like this cause. I flipped over here to this side. And when I flipped to the other side, I got really ticked off because it was the first time I was exposed to the idea that, like, black people hated me. These people, I was repoing their cars. Obviously, it's a horrible situation to have your car repoed, but in my still naive mind, I thought, screw you. Pay your car payment. Don't, like, not, and they would hide their cars, and they'd have them around 10 people's houses, and it was a nightmare to track them down, right? They were, like, playing the system and gaming the system, and still in total naivety and like youthfulness and whatever, still confused, still trying to figure out life. It kind of made me go on the other angle where I was a little bit like ticked off, like screw this, I want black people to have fairness and all this, and then I come here, I'm doing my job, you didn't pay your payment, and now you're mad at me. I'm the honky cracker white privilege guy, right? Okay, well then you fast forward a few years after that, I'm married. My wife's pregnant with our first son. I start my service company. We clean windows, we wash houses, just like most of you guys do. And we're in this wealthy part, the white part, right, south of Flint. You know, the white people live over here, black people live in the city, right? At least where we're from. And I start my company, kind of had forgotten all that, and I'm trying to build my own dream. I'm trying to create something for my family. And then I meet a guy named Joshua Haywood, an amazing human being. An amazing worker. He served in the military. He was super fit. He loved to do jujitsu and MMA, and he needed a job. And I hired him because he's freaking awesome. And maybe in my own naivety, I got to stop saying that word because I'm horrible at saying that word. I didn't even think of it. I'm like, you're friggin' awesome. Of course you can work here, right? So I hire this guy, clean cut. He grew up in the north end of Flint. People made fun of him for getting good grades. People made fun of him for actually achieving stuff. He came from a super impoverished area of Flint. Like Flint's Flint, right? But there's pockets of Flint that are even worse than Flint overall. He came from the bad part of Flint. And he crushed life. He went into the army and he did all this stuff and he served his time and he was super honorable. And then he comes back and he works for me. And out of the blue, because I'm so stupid that I'm not even thinking of these things, I hire him and start sending him out because he's my friend. He started teaching me like fighting stuff again because I'm like getting fat and old. And he's like, hey, let's work out. And I had these mats in my basement. We'd like beat the crap out of each other and do jujitsu together. And he was my friend. And then I realized how many of our customers were being a-hole, racist, bigoted, horrible humans. And it kind of blew my mind open to this idea that this is a real thing. And with home service companies, I've never heard this talked about. Like I have a podcast, almost like 300,000 downloads of this podcast. I've never talked about this. I never brought it up. And there's not a ton of minority service company owners. I mean, there are. I don't see tons of them, but they do exist. And like I'm like, that must be weird because when I hired Josh just to work for me as a technician, things got weird. I fired customers. I said, you're done, you're done, you're done. Just because of the way they worded him, it made me want to throw up. It made me want to throw up because it just is gross. It's wrong. It's sin. It's evil, right? But it is real. Now, with that being said, there's like this weird, like as I look at politics, I look at all this stuff, I'm a Christian, I'm a conservative, definitely wouldn't label myself as a Republican because I kind of view the two parties as in the same rowboat, two oars in the same rowboat, kind of both rowing on different sides of the boat, but they're both going over a waterfall or something. But I am a conservative Christian, right? Which would label me as the, like the white guy that wants to blah, 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 blah. Look, here's my point. I'm going to do a podcast series on this topic because I don't want to make assumptions and stuff, but I have a hunch that there are real challenges to being black or Latino or anything other than a white guy and having a home service company and trying to grow it. Like, there has to be a real thing. Now, I don't ascribe to the whole I'm a victim and, I'm owed all this stuff. Like, that's not real either. That's not helpful. I'm not I'm not over on this side where I'm like, oh, boo-hoo, blah, 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 because there's plenty of ultra successful minorities. But I'm also not stupid enough to think that this stuff doesn't actually exist because it exists on both sides. Because when I repoed cars, guess what? I was a white cracker honky guy. They don't know my heart. They don't know my heart. They don't know anything about me, but they assume stuff. And when I would send Josh Haywood to go wash someone's house, and he was amazing, and he had integrity, and he was a veteran, and he was awesome, they assume stuff. And they're idiots. And the people that got mad at me for repoing their cars are idiots. And so you got idiots. There's idiots everywhere. But with a home service company, I wonder what stories are out there. And so here's my ask for you. If you know like a minority service company owner, I want to know who they are. I have some I'm going to reach out to. I'm going to try to have some really like raw, authentic conversations about it because I think it'll be like really powerful, right? Like for me in a white town to grow a business, that's one thing. And yes, the systems I use matter. Yes, having leadership ability matters. Being able to communicate, have a vision, like actually being good at business matters. And if you're a minority and you suck at those things, you're screwed. And it's not because you're black. But with that being said, what if you're really good at those things and you're still black? And you go give a quote in a white area where all the money is, and like that has to affect something. Like that's interesting to me. I think it's valuable. I think it's a good conversation to have. So sorry for my impassioned rant. I've been wanting to say this for a long time, been wanting to get this out there, but I need your help because I want to find people that don't come on the show and be like, oh, life's so hard, blah, 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 blah. I want to find people who are doing stuff, accomplishing stuff, who are not making excuses. But at the same time, like I want to give them permission to acknowledge the reality that they lost that contract because of the color of their skin, because that happens. I guarantee you it happens. And it bothers me. It's messed up, man. Like, I almost look at like me being naive as a blessing because I never like overthought about it. If you go back to the beginning of the video, I talked about Bobby from Lake Fenton High School. Really cute. I liked her. I had a crush on her. I would have dated her. But she had to leave our school because a bunch of ignorant white idiots were posting lynching posters on her locker. That's insane, right? And it's not just black and white. It's all the other races, if you're other than white, right? So I'm not trying to like race bait or do anything weird. I'm genuinely like asking you, do you know a minority who's building a home service company and has struggled with this? Is this a real thing? How prevalent is it? Where's the balance between building a business in general is super freaking hard, because it was really hard for me. And we had a car repossessed, and I had my basement flood because I couldn't pay my electric bill, and my wife's debit card was declined, and I'm the white guy in the white town. Business is hard. So how do you like reconcile the line of making excuses because you have extra adversity and legit being screwed over because of your race? Like, I don't even know the answer to that, but I think it's a really cool conversation. I'm excited to share that with thousands of people that listen to my podcast. I think it'll be awesome. I love you all. Let me know what your thoughts. Am I nuts? Am I crazy? Te amo, amigos. Tienen un buena noche.
Hey, thanks for hanging out, friends. And from all of us here at the Quick Talk Podcast team, we hope you loved today's show. We hope that you were inspired to become a doer and not just a listener. Apply what you've heard today in your own business and watch things change for the better. Lastly, remember that all the money in the world can't save your soul. Seek first the kingdom of God, my friends. We'll see you next time.
For more information about the Quick Talk Podcast or Joshua's other businesses, visit our website, quicktalkpodcast.com. Have a blessed day.